Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I'm not sure if you listened to either of the shows that you were not on last week that I did with Kevin Noon, but if you did listen, I would like you to grade my power pauses on a grade of like 1 to 10, with 1 being like a, Kevin Noon caliber power pause, and 10 being the art has been perfected.
Tom, let me ask you, do you think Tom Wopat and John Schneider ever watched any of the Coy and Vance shows?
I mean, I would think obviously. I mean, they're canon, aren't they? Or are we considering them non-canonical? And follow-up question, can I grade the timeliness of your references next?
I mean, this is the second time I've mentioned Coy and Vance in like the last 3 shows that you and I have done, so I feel that's pretty timely. And actually, it might be 2 shows in a row, actually. I don't know. But yes, thank you for handling that. I did not. Unfortunately, I did not. How would you rate them? What was your guesstimation on the length of time?
Oh, I always try and be humble, so I'm not going to say anything longer than like 9. Any lower than 9. Nine's I think about right. Always got to give yourself room to improve, Tony. That's the key to success.
So thank you for doing that. I won't thank Kevin. There's no reason. But yes, it is good to be back. Tom, so Sunday afternoon, family and I were out for a lunch at a place we used to go to like 20 years ago. And so it's me and my wife and my wife's side of the family. And after we're all done, we're getting ready we get up to leave, and somebody says, "Hey, Tony." And there was a member of Buckeye Huddle, was SW Ohio, and his wife. They wanted to say hi to me and that they listened to the show. And Tom, I know this has happened to you before, where somebody in public with your family around says, "Hey, people know you and they like what you do." And so this is a new experience for me. And so then my family gets to watch somebody say hello and that they like what I do, because my wife has never listened, watched, read. So this is confirmation. She finally got some confirmation that some people like what we do.
It's good. It's just like an alibi. Like, okay, so he hasn't been just making this all up and just, bringing him money from like the dog track or something. All right. Well, I guess that's good. So yeah. It's never quite as they're never quite as impressed as you'd want them to be, with like, oh, local celebrity Tony Gerdeman. No, sir. Regional celebrity Tony Gerdeman.
Yeah, afterwards my brother-in-law was like, "Wow, can I have your autograph?" That sort of thing. Like, it didn't last long. The shine wore off pretty quickly.
Brother-in-law reaction possible. Yes, 10 out of 10 on that one for sure.
But it does last a little bit longer with the wife's side of the family than it does with your own, because there's nothing, there's no amount of fame you can achieve that would impress your own side of the family. It's like, yeah, you're president of the United States, but remember that time you pooped on a couch? Like that sort of thing. Like, you can't ever get past one couch.
Millard Fillmore did it. How hard can it really be when you think about it?
Basically. So thank you for keeping the show afloat as now I try to sink it. But Tom, very special day today. It is our second annual. Have we done this before we did it the one time?
Well, we did it last year. It feels like something that we have done in previous years before that, but I don't think we ever went back and scored it. In previous years, it was one of those shows that we did and then just immediately forgot about, just got memory hold after that.
Yes.
So, as far as I'm aware, I am the only champion ever in the history of the Black Stripe Draft, but you get another shot this year, so who knows? Crazier things have happened. Can the Fairleigh Dickinson of the Black Stripe Draft pull it off? Let's find out.
And so we are only drafting true freshmen. I'm interested because when that's what we did last year, and when I put my list together, I couldn't remember. So I'm at the top of my list, and I'm thinking, how high do I put Tegra Shabola? Because he's battling for a starting job. Obviously, it's Davison Igbenos and Jahad Carter, maybe 1 and 2. But you never even considered any of that because you correctly stuck with the true freshman, correct?
Correct. Yes. So we're just doing the true freshmen because if you're picking the transfers are always the first ones to lose the black stripes because they're guys who come in and are used to the speed of college practice and have had the years in the weight room and all that kind of stuff, and they're just much more game ready and competition ready. So if this was a including the transfers kind of thing, I think Davis Nigbinosin and Jihad Carter are maybe the top two guys to come off the board. And
if we had already done this and included everybody before like the first practice, and whoever had Davis and Igbinosin hears the way Jim Knowles is talking about him, we're like, yes, I got this one. Because it sounds like he might be the first one out. But Tom, since you are the defending champion, I guess it's only right that you choose. Well, honestly, if we talk about how the way drafts are supposed to be done, the worst goes first.
And there's no question who that is. So I will give you instead the option. Which would you prefer? Because I don't want you later to say, well, yes, I got the first pick, but then you got two in a row, so therefore, or vice versa, yes, I got two in a row, but you got the first pick. Because I'm sure, I'm really just trying to limit excuses this year. I don't want to have to hear complaining for months and months and months. So I will leave it up to you. Would you like to pick first or second and third? First and fourth or second and third? And we'll continue as a normal snake draft.
Let me assure you, Tom, nothing that happens in this draft, the way it is set up, would limit any kind of whining or complaining that would come from me. So don't even be concerned about that. I really only, because this is a difficult draft because 4 of the early enrollees are offensive linemen. And so it's like, how early do you draft those guys? Because last year they were at the bottom of my list, the offensive linemen. There's no point. I have a kind of a feeling about some of these guys, though, being early enrollees. So I went back and looked. The first 4 freshmen all enrolled early that lost their black stripes. 2 of those lost them in spring. After those first 4, it's just willy-nilly in terms of who was enrolled earlier and who was not. But since I really only have a top 2 that I'm committed to, and it doesn't really matter which one I get, I will let you go first.
All right. And just to remind people how we do the scoring on this, the first person who loses their black stripe is worth 30 points. The second person who loses their black stripe is worth 25. Third is 20, and then it goes 19, 18, 17 after that. So there's a real premium on being one of the first guy and the second guy who lose their black stripes. If you get those, you have a pretty big gap that's almost impossible to make up. So last year I had CJ Hicks as my top pick. Tony had Caden Curry as his top pick. And then I think the first guy who lost his black stripe last year was Kai Stokes, I believe. And he was the 6th overall pick. So, and then right after that, it was Caden Curry was second. So it was not far off, and CJ Hicks was the 4th. So you never quite know, but we did a pretty decent job last year. So, all right. So I think you're looking at early enrollees. Generally, it's not offensive linemen. Offensive linemen are, like, as you mentioned, that just by the nature of the position, it's a more developmental position. It takes longer for those guys to lose the stripe. So I have a group of like 6 off the top that I think are probably, the first 3 or 4 are going to come out of this group of 6, maybe. I'm going to start, Tony, with, I'm going to go back and look again, the order, safety, defensive lineman, cornerback, linebacker, then wide receiver last year. So I am going to go out of the defensive back room. I'm going to go with Jermaine Matthews.
Wow, number 1 overall. And he's got the right temperament, the right attitude, the right aggressive, cocky nature to get his stripe off. So I like that one. He's my top defensive back, and I just wonder if there are enough reps for him being number 5 or number 6 right now. Maybe 5 or 6, somewhere in there. So I like that one. And I do expect him to be the first of the defensive backs, but don't sleep on Malik Hartford. So my first two picks then.
Can I guess that they're going to come out of the same position group? Because I think I know who you're going to go with, because they're probably the other two guys I was thinking seriously about taking number one.
That is correct. Austin Sierveld and Josh Padilla.
All right. You said it.
I didn't take my finger off the checker. Tom, if you would like to tell the people, please go ahead.
I'm going to guess that you're going to go with Carnell Tate and Noah Rogers in some order there.
You have the players correct, but in fairness, I'm going Noah Rogers. There's actually some thought I got to put into this now.
Is this? I assure you, unless you have some kind of salary cap concerns involved here, it really doesn't make any difference at all.
Well, do I want who do I think is more likely to get the higher points? So yeah, okay, I'll go with Noah Rogers and Carnell Tate.
All right, yeah, that's. I think those are excellent picks. I very, very, very seriously thought about Carnell Tate number one overall, and I really was thinking Carnell Tate number one overall until I went back and looked at when the freshman wide receivers lost their stripes last year, and talked myself out of it. And I think there's still a very strong case to be made for him to go number one overall. It would not be remotely surprising if he was the first one.
Caleb Brown, like 8 or 9 practices as a summer enrollee. Tom, I think maybe this freshman class of receivers is better than last year's freshman class, some would say, maybe all would say. And so perhaps basing your decisions on last year is going to make you look very, 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 very foolish.
Possible that is how that plays out. Yes, that is very much possible that is how that plays out. So I am going to double down here on my defensive back strategy. I'm going with Malik Hartford, number 4 overall. And I think, this is a spot where they don't have a ton of depth. They're going to be shuffling guys around. I think he's got an opportunity to potentially be out there in some, getting some kind of meaningful snaps. I'm certainly not expecting him to start this year, but be out there and be a contributor, even just in the second halves of lopsided games or whatever. He feels like someone who's, I would be very confident he's lost it before the season. So then it's just a matter of, does it happen at the end of the spring? Does it happen early in fall camp? And so I've got him number 4 overall. And boy, now we're kind of like down a tier. There's a couple guys here. I had a top 4 and then a couple more that I thought, oh boy, maybe 3 more guys here that I could really pick from. I am going to go with Jelani Thurman, I think, next. And we'll see. This is another one where that's a full tight end room, but I don't think you're going to see a ton of Cade Stover this spring. So, is he going to be able to get reps? I think he's athletic enough that he could be someone who's making plays. And this is one where I'm kind of betting on he gets the blocking part of the job down quickly. And will he? Well, we'll find out together. But that is kind of the roadblock to getting a guy on the field at that position. And if he does it, I think he's athletic enough that he could be an immediate kind of, immediately noticeable player out of that room. Not necessarily a starter or anything like that, but someone who, is impressive enough that he kind of checks all the boxes to get that black stripe removed. We'll see if he does it. We'll know a lot more after the scrimmage on Saturday, I'm sure. But I'll have those 2 guys as my next 2 picks.
Can we, after the scrimmage, could we maybe trade picks? Like, hey, if I'll give you for this and this. He looks like a college tight end. Like, he doesn't look like, a year in the weight room, 2 years in the weight room. Then, he's already looking the part. And so it's almost like, sir, take that black stripe off. You don't need that. You're already 6'6", 250 pounds. What are you doing out here hurting these children? But I like that. Now we're to the point, as I said, the first 4 to lose them last year enrolled in the spring. And then the 5th was, I think, maybe Caleb Brown. So the 5th freshman last year was Caleb Brown, which tells us, based on last year, as we know all things are, now you can just start drafting anybody. And And so, there's still early enrollees like Will Smith. Is Arvell Reese early? No, he's not. Bryson Rogers, the 4 offensive linemen. I feel like if I'm going to draft another receiver, it's going to be Brandon Innes. I am not leaving here without taking Calvin Simpson-Hunt. So I will just do that now as I talk about my next pick, because I need to get one of these corners. And even though he's a summer enrollee, he is a physical guy. And you've already got the top corner prospect, so I'll go take Calvin Simpson-Hunt, who will come in this summer and is already strong and physical. Again, that's kind of what you need. You just need these guys that won't back down, and I think he's a guy that won't back down. And I feel like I'd be kicking myself if I didn't just go ahead and grab Brandon Innes here. And then, Tom, eventually as you go take Bryson Rogers like in the 13th round, he'll be the first one to lose his black stripe because he is a sneaky spring and early enrollee. But I will go ahead and take Brandon Innes. And how many are we doing? 10 rounds? What did we decide?
How many? I think we'll just draft till we get to the end of the list.
Because there's 21 players.
That sounds right. So yeah, we'll go far. We'll go as far as we need to. So now there are 2 non-offensive linemen left who are spring enrollees: Bryson Rogers, Will Smith. And I mean, there's a lot of guys on that summer list that I'm I'm really, really tempted to take. This is going to go one of 2 ways, and I'm really going to be kicking myself. I think I'm going to play the odds here and give myself the best possible chance to have the first and second guys off the board. So I'm going to take the 2 non-offensive linemen who are left for the spring, Will Smith and Bryson Rogers.
Tom, the offensive coordinator, Tom Orr, would not be happy with you. Let me just tell you that right now. The never punt, blah, 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 analytics, blah, blah, blah. You're playing the analytics part here, but you're not being aggressive.
I'm trying to score points. I'm trying to score the most points I can. So that's kind of the opposite of, I think, what you're accusing me of here.
Everybody wants to gamble with your chips or something like that John Cooper would say.
Mm-hmm.
So now I just wonder, because I feel like we're selling like Austin Searveld, Josh Padilla, Luke Montgomery are the kind of the mentality that will get stripes removed quicker than past years. And let's remind people that George Fitzpatrick and Tegra Shabola both still have their black stripes from last year. And Carson Hinsman lost his in December. The first offensive lineman to lose his black stripe last year was, in fact, Jack Forsman, a second-year walk-on in November. But Carson Hinsman, December 14th, was the first true freshman offensive lineman to lose his black stripe. I expect to have, I don't think they'll go to December before somebody loses a black stripe in the offensive line room. But I'm not going to go there just yet because this defensive line group, this is difficult. Do I go Joshua Mickens? Do I go Jason Moore? Do I go Caden McDonald? Do I just take 2 of those 3 and call it a day and not knowing which of the 3? But I also, Lincoln Keenhol's in there. I'm going to have to grab, oh man, this is difficult. To take a lineman, offensive lineman, like in the top 10 or 11 seems kind of high. And I'm ignoring Cedric Hawkins and Jaden Bonsu just because I'm not there yet. Let's go with Arvell Reese. I'll jump in here and take him here as I'm talking about others because he was kind of off to the left and I didn't want to forget him. So I'll take Arvell Reese just now and add, I'm going to add, because now this is my 6th pick, so I can go to an offensive lineman. Maybe. But I can wait because you will wait. I'll go Jason Moore. Jason Moore was the top available player on my board at this point. Oh, wow. So that was a good pick. I think. if he is a defensive end or defensive tackle by the time he gets to Ohio State this summer.
Yeah, I think he's a good choice there. Arvell Reese, it'll be interesting to see Arvell Reese because he's coming in the summer and he's the only freshman linebacker, and there's a lot of guys ahead of him who still haven't gotten on the field much. So does that mean he could potentially jump them, or does that mean that there's a lot of traffic in front of him and Tommy Eichenberg has missed the spring, and so they're going to, you're probably going to have him play a little more than he typically would during fall camp. So yeah, I think I had him a little lower just based on the fact that I think his path to the field is going to be a little more difficult this fall. But I think it's a good pick. It's not not one that I would view as a reach. Yeah. Now, and I'm having exactly the same conversation that you were just there, where boy, there's a lot of good choices. There's just kind of another group here, and I'm looking at probably Joshua Mickens, Lincoln Keenholz, and then it's really like what annoys me about this is you're talking about all these guys and you're just kind of like running down, and I'm like, that would probably be those are the next guys I'm considering. So we have either completely groupthinked ourselves into we've worked ourselves into a shoot, or we have or we really have a good grasp on this freshman class. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm gonna take Josh Mickens as my next pick. Number that tweet me 12 overall. Oh, boy, trying to remember when. I don't think Devin Brown lost his particularly early last year.
He lost his on October 5th.
Yeah, so that's, you're a little ways into the season. And I think he was in for the spring too, so I'm going to not do Keenholz. I'm going to go with...
Don't take the big defensive tackle.
Well, I'm going to go with Luke Montgomery here. I think if anyone out of that group is maybe going to be the guy who loses a little earlier than others do, I think I'm going to go with him. But yeah, this is one of those, like, I can kind of hear the draft chime goes off on ESPN, and then there's kind of like, oh, that's a reach. Yeah, it's a position of need. Yes, but do you just get the best available? And yeah, I think Luke Montgomery is someone who is going to lose his black stripe early for an offensive lineman, but the question is just, is early for an offensive lineman in November, which doesn't do me a whole lot of good here, or is it September? Is he someone who gets, there are reps available on that line. I think he's someone who you could see work his way into the 2 deep maybe this year, and if he does, then you're probably losing your black stripe at some point. So yeah, we'll see. I just think there's enough reps available possibly for him to get in there somewhere. So yes, Josh Mickens and Luke Montgomery.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which of the offensive linemen I wanted to take first, and so you taking Montgomery at least makes the decision easier for me, because now I'm down to Austin Seerveld and Josh Padilla. Padilla being a wrestler, I think, kind of maybe gives him a leg up playing center with no Jacob James, maybe getting there with number 3 reps. There are so many guards competing with Austin Seerveld, so maybe that's I can stay away from him for a while. And you keep going back to Cedric Hawkins and Jaden Bouncer, and I'll just let you know, they're at the bottom of my list, not because I did any rankings, that's just they're the last ones I typed. But getting here in the summer for both of those guys, I just expect both of those guys to redshirt and really be developmental guys. Caden McDonald is interesting to me because he could come in and just, because you watch his highlights, can't say film, you watch his highlights and he just blows through people. He's quick, he's fast, but also he's a big defensive tackle. And is he going to be one of these active guys, or one of these guys who just has gotten by on being big for his entire life and has to learn that no, it takes more and it's a learning process for him. So I will go Josh Padilla here just to lock in my top offensive lineman on the board. Wrestler, aggressive guy, not the most athletic guy, gets by with his heart. And really, if you look at my list, it's about heart. It's about want to. Tom, you've got a lot of prima donnas on your side. I don't care about the flash. I want the pan. So my next one, I'm going to go with, I got to go Caden McDonald. I'm just going to go get the size. I've locked up my interior with Josh Padilla and Caden McDonald. I feel good about that. Big 300-pounder, moves well, but again, later on, if it's an October, November thing, it's kind of what I'm planning for.
And that would have been my next pick, I think, coming off after I was thinking you were going somewhere else with that, and thought, oh, good, I'm going to get Caden McDonald. That feels like that might be a steal. That's someone who, you're picking him 15th overall, and he might be the 6th guy to lose his stripe or something like that. There is a way that you see those guys get on the field early, and generally, if you're on the field, you've lost your black stripe at that point. So he's someone who you might see in the 3rd or 4th quarter against Youngstown State or something like that. Still probably going to be a red shirt, but you still get on the field at that point, preserve the year of eligibility and all that, because you're not probably going to be a too deep kind of guy, but someone who you're going to see on the field relatively early. All right, so I'm going to have to go here. I can't leave the quarterback sitting out there any longer. I'm going Lincoln Keenholz here, and he's someone who, if he was in for the spring, he's someone I think you would have much, much higher on the list. He kind of ticks a lot of their boxes, where he's, the multi-sport athlete, and he's a basketball player and a baseball player and a football player, and he's, kind of does all the stuff, and they obviously really like him. They kind of jumped him to the top of their board kind of late in the cycle. It's just a matter of, I think the two things that would be a concern to me here are, number one, not in for the spring, and number two, you've got young quarterbacks, so you don't have the luxury of throwing a bunch of reps at a guy who is, very clearly not going to start this year. He is not, if Lincoln Keenholz is starting this year, either something incredibly remarkably good has happened, or something incredibly remarkably bad has happened, because that is very clearly not the plan to start him this year. So we'll see how that all ends up. But yeah, I'm going to take him, and then I feel like I've got to take one of these safeties here. And it's almost a coin flip to me here between Jaden Bonsu and Cedric Hawkins. And this might be a special teams kind of decision more than a safety kind of, because these are guys, true freshmen coming into the summer. They have a bunch of guys at safety. You don't know who's going to play where, but they have enough guys that these are not people who are going to be asked to just jump in and go. So this is maybe more of a, who's going to maybe be a special team standout. I'll go with Cedric Hawkins here, but this is about as much of a coin flip as I think you could have.
I'm glad you went Hawkins, because I wanted Bonsu and his physicality. So thank you for that. I wouldn't be surprised if Jaden Bonsu eventually becomes a linebacker. But I like the Lincoln Keenholz thing. He's good at everything he does. He's one of those guys. So he'll be one of those guys that's good on when they do that thing with the best Fridays, the best football on Fridays, where they're throwing footballs and basketballs into barrels, and it's like, oh, you want him on your team, or you want him on your basketball team as well. This guy who fits in and does things well. So I like that one. And I think when you consider that they don't have a lot of quarterbacks on the team, there's some good value there. So now my last two picks, I'll go ahead and take Jaden Bonsu. As I said, he's a physical guy. I don't know how much that gets to come through necessarily in practice, though, for him. Although, if it's 4s versus 3s, go hammer each other. There are no black jerseys here. And just let him loose. And then my last pick, Tom, and if you would like to offer me up one of your other players, I will give you this pick. Like, if you'd like to offer me up like your 5th round pick for this pick, I would go, but I will go ahead and take Austin Sierveld, the guard, in for the spring, as we know. And again, there are so many bodies there, but I also think there are not enough surefire guys that can necessarily hold him back, past maybe October something like that, where eventually you know, and they're probably going to lose some guys after spring. Let's be honest about it. Like at some point, guys aren't going to play, and it's time to start letting the younger guys who still have a chance to do something. So that's my final pick, Austin Seerveld. Pretty good to get the last pick, being an early enrollee. Something, Tom, you must be incredibly jealous about.
Well, my last pick is also going to be an early enrollee. So Miles Walker, the final freshman there, I'll take him, number 20, out of the mean streets of Greenwich, Connecticut. He's someone who, this is a developmental position, as we say all the time. This is something where, you come in the first year and you're overwhelmed and you just have to get up to speed and just spend a year in the weight room and all that kind of stuff. So there's a reason. There's nothing against the offensive linemen. Just I feel like we need to say this again every once in a while. Like, I promise we have nothing against the offensive linemen. This is just how the black stripes typically come off, the order that the black stripes come off in. A lot of times, as you mentioned, you will have guys in their second spring who haven't lost a black stripe among the offensive linemen. So that's why. But yeah, he's someone I think, he's I think maybe like a talk to me in 2 years kind of thing. Like just he might turn out to be great. He might be a multi-year starter at Ohio State. Just when with a lot of these offensive linemen, you kind of see where they are. They check in the first year, and then you don't hear from them or see them really at all for a year, maybe two, and then maybe the third spring, something like that, for the early enrollees. That's when you really maybe start to see some of these guys, take on a bigger role.
Yeah, I believe he was, the lowest rated member of Ohio State's 2023 class, number 498 overall, which is about 498 spots ahead of DeJuan Jones back in 20? I don't know. The years they fly by. So there you have it. All 20 guys selected, 10 rounds. First pick, Jermaine Matthews by Tom Orr, cornerback out of Ohio. Everybody watch out for him. I feel like I feel pretty good actually about my picks. Tom, I'm sure some of your guys will have a black stripe removed, and it'll be a big day for all of them. And maybe perhaps they can celebrate it like Tennessee or Auburn celebrates an Alabama win or a Georgia win, and then you get just SEC stuff going on. So good on you, I suppose.
Yeah, I am I'm still looking at the Carnell Tate thing and questioning myself if I made the right decision. I think I would have gone with Carnell Tate number 1 overall if I had to do it all over again. But you picked him third, so you obviously you don't believe in him. So I mean, if you want to trade him to me, that's fine. Is there someone that you look at who went a little later that you think might be the steal of the draft? The person who went 13th and is gonna lose his stripe 5th or something like that?
Well, and this is why everything was going against the history, what you should never do in this black stripe draft. But I just feel like Luke Montgomery. I don't know what it is. Like I don't even. Yeah, he's maybe playing tackle, but he's 6'4". So is he actually going to be at tackle? Is he going to go to guard? Like there's so many questions surrounding him. But also, I feel like he's a guy to watch. And I think all 4 of these offensive linemen, especially the top 3 that we drafted, do things the way they want them to be done. But he's a guy who's kind of advanced and has and I keep saying the right mentality for a lot of these guys, and he's one of them. And to get him, with your 8th, with your 7th pick, I think that's pretty good for a spring enrollee or a January enrollee. So I like that one. Really, that's the only pick of yours I like.
That's tough but fair. We'll see we'll see how it plays out. I was just looking back at last year's, and I got Jair Brown at 14 overall last year. And he was the third guy to lose his stripe. That was one that I don't think we saw coming. But hey, a cornerback from the Cincinnati area, Tony. I mean, I don't know who could this has worked for me before. Maybe this will work out just fine again.
Lightning never strikes the same place twice in the black stripe draft. If we learned anything through the annals of this draft, we know that I like getting Brandon Inniss at 4 as I did. I I feel okay about that, but you just, and really my top two pick, or my third and fourth pick and fifth pick and sixth pick are all summer enrollees. So as we go, I think we probably did the same thing last year when you try to draft the spring guys first, and you've done that all the way until Joshua Mickens at 6. So your first 5 guys are spring, and then it goes right back to a spring guy in Luke Montgomery. And then, you're down to 2 summer guys in Lincoln Keenholz and Cedric Hawkins. Then back to the spring, whereas, 2 of my 4 spring draftees are offensive linemen. So do they even count? Boy, Tom, I love my draft with Calvin Simpson-Hunt, Brandon Ennis. But when I think I only have 2 early enrollees that are non-offensive linemen, I feel like I'm at a bit of a disadvantage.
Well, I think the important thing is that when Ryan Day listens to this, that he understands that the important thing is, listen, you got to make people feel comfortable. You got to make people feel at home. You got to get a bunch of those stripes off in the spring. Get them all off in the spring so everyone feels comfortable and at home. Doesn't have to worry about that. Can just focus on the football after that. I think that's the way to handle things. And if it is a spring full of stripe removals, Tony, I will have a second straight crown to wear on my head with no black stripe on it.
I felt really good about my draft until I looked at it.
We can always trade on a future episode if you want to. If we want to do some bartering here, we can work out a deal maybe.
No, I'll stick with these losers. God, they're my losers now. So, boy, I do like all of these players. And it is what it is. Right? We don't even have to air this one. We don't have to let this one out. But anything else, Tom, before we get out of here?
No, just so good to have you back, and so good to have you just watching you just mentally start to break down about this just right on camera. It's just I've missed this, and I'm so glad you're back.
Thank you. I hope everybody else has missed it as well, because it does hurt. Just watching the picks, all of these summer enrollees, but I just see June, just this June Ennis, June Reese, June Moore, June Simpson-Hunt. What have I done? Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining us for our Black Stripe Draft. We look forward to it every year, and every year it's an incredible disappointment. But we've got more shows to come this week. Should be a big week. I'm looking forward to that. Please, if you have not yet, become a member of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Say hello to us there. Just as I said, I had a member reach out to me today and approach me in public in front of my family during private time. So that was good. I always appreciate that. It's always fun to run into you people. I didn't mean it like that. It's always fun to run into everybody associated with the site. And of course, those who listen to the show, watch the show. Tom, I'm trying to end the show, so that will do it. Please continue to find us at youtube.com. It's been a while since I've actually done the show, so I've forgotten how it goes. youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. And thank you all, and we'll talk to you guys later.